Hello, I'm Christine Hall, Executive Director of Arts Equity Nashville, and I want to thank Councilmember Stiles for inviting us here today, for our fellow artists for assembling, and for community organizer Lydia Youssef, all your work ongoing. I have two statements to share from artists who were not able to attend. Before I go into these, I will take a moment to say that Arts Equity Nashville officially formed a few years ago to advocate for equitable arts funding and distribution in Nashville. Since Metro Arts' inception, we know the lion's share of funding has gone to the largest organizations, and artists have been organizing for quite some time to get that more equitably distributed and to right-size the funding in the arts. We filed a Title VI complaint with MHRC that was ultimately successful and awarded over $2 million in funding direct to local artists. The benefits throughout the community were far-reaching and pronounced. Since then, we've had to file another Title VI complaint with MHRC, but this one did not get the reception the last one did. It was not properly investigated. They went ahead and went straight to claiming there was no probable cause. However, you can see, not just by the artists who are gathered here today, but the ones who co-signed on our complaint, 88 together with Lydia and myself, that many artists are still facing discrimination, and far more than that have never been served by Metro Arts. This first statement I'm going to read is from Nicole Minyard, founder and executive director of Daybreak Arts, which creates artistic and economic opportunities for people experiencing homelessness and housing insecurity by providing them access to the creative resources needed to achieve personal fulfillment and success. I read this to you as a formerly unhoused artist. Today I'm speaking as a general operating grantee in solidarity with artists in this community. Over the last decade, our nonprofit has benefited from Metro Arts funding, so I know firsthand how important that support can be. But instead of solidarity, I've watched many nonprofits align themselves with art monopolies that hoard public funding and consolidate power. These monopolies don't just control resources. They control who gets visibility, who gets opportunities, and who feels safe enough to speak. They elevate a few smaller organizations and artists not as a commitment to equity, but as a strategy to maintain silence when it matters most. We're often told, especially by Metro Arts staff, we just need to get everyone in the same room. But let's be honest, that room is not equal. There are structural barriers that can make it dangerous for people to speak freely. Artists know that honesty can cost them funding, partnerships, and their future. So many self-censor. And then this Arts Commission has the audacity to turn around and claim it has gathered community feedback and that everything is working. For years, I have watched, emailed, and spoken out as artists in this community have become more marginalized and more disenfranchised because of this Arts Commission decisions. I've seen artists awarded funding who never received it because they couldn't secure fiscal sponsors. Many walked away humiliated and vowed to never apply for Metro Arts funding under this leadership again. Metro Arts' actions have effectively coerced people out of participation. I've seen artists who did secure fiscal sponsors face new barriers this year. Fiscal sponsors that deprioritized their projects, delayed payments, withheld information, and left artists without recourse. Our community brought all of these concerns to the Arts Commission before fiscal sponsorship was imposed, and yet those warnings were always ignored. Metro Arts has established no meaningful training or regulation of fiscal sponsors and no consequences when they fail to uphold their agreements. They rolled out a process that the community did not want without the diligence to ensure it would work, leaving artists to absorb the harm while they figure it out. And the harm is not hypothetical. It is happening now in our community. Meanwhile, Metro Arts continues to present a public narrative that everything is going smoothly, that the community is satisfied, but many grantees and excluded artists are either too exhausted or too afraid to speak because they've seen how this Arts Commission can retaliate and smear people. This Arts Commission has sidelined local muralists, artists in our communities, while giving tens of thousands of public dollars directly to out-of-state artists for public art projects where there is limited to no community engagement. They have also lowered Thrive Artist funding, further restricting opportunity for the very artists these programs are supposed to support. There's also a lack of clear standards, separating dedicated arts organizations from nonprofits whose primary mission is elsewhere but include arts programming. As a result, organizations funded for housing or social services can still compete for arts operating support without a defined arts budget, leveraging broader resources to their advantage. This puts smaller, dedicated arts groups at a disadvantage and diverts limited funding away from those it's meant to support. I raised these concerns last year, but both the interim executive director and the Arts Commission ignored them. So instead, this past year, while more funding was directed toward both non-arts focused nonprofits and well-resourced organizations with multi-million-dollar budgets, I watched smaller, fully focused arts nonprofits in my own community receive no Metro Arts funding this year. In addition to the arts nonprofits impacted by these bad policies, 73 Thrive applicants who scored above 70%, many outperforming larger and non-arts organizations that were funded, received no funding at all. Let that sink in. 73 artists who had scores higher than many art monopolies received nothing, while organizations with multiple established revenue streams and wealthy board members were awarded a disproportionate amount of arts funding once again. Right now, this Arts Commission has created a system with increased barriers for artists and more ways to extract funding for institutions. This moves in direct contradiction to the goals Metro Arts originally set out to achieve before Metro Legal, Metro Finance, and members of this Arts Commission overrode the democratic process, exposing Metro Nashville to increased legal risk. The Arts Commission has also refused to engage the community to find viable solutions to pay artists directly, something that worked for over a decade without issue. Instead, they've doubled down on a system that shifts power and resources away from artists and into the hands of wealthy institutions. I'm going to call this what it is. Retaliation. Retaliation against artists who demanded more equitable funding. Retaliation that protects well-resourced organizations. I'll say it again as a nonprofit who became a fiscal sponsor this year. Mandatory fiscal sponsorship is not a neutral policy. It is a discriminatory barrier, and it's a deliberate policy choice this Arts Commission has imposed, undermining the democratic process. But many in our community are not going to accept this in silence. We are documenting these harms, and we will continue to demand a system that is transparent, equitable, and accountable to the people it claims to serve. This next and final artist statement that I will read is from Marlos E'van. The Thrive Grant was supposed to be a program that put artists first, giving them a chance to control their own narrative and foster community that thrives both socially and economically. Over the past few years, the Commission seems to be suffering from main character syndrome, refusing to listen to the community's concerns and ideas. Forcing fiscal sponsorship after many people documented they were against it felt like dictatorship. Artists facing housing and food crisis while being forced to fight for scraps that also includes convoluted processes, multiple delays, and unclear feedback from the Commission all add to the humiliation Nashville artists are expected to endure over and over. All in the name of art, fairness, and trust in the system. This is diabolical. I would think that in a time where this country is on a dark path, a community like Nashville would be a strong example of what true leadership looks like, leading the way on how other cities can transform these toxic systems into practices that embrace rather than ostracize, and be democratic rather than dictate. Metro Council has a chance to be on the right side of history, and I'm curious to see if you'll be a torchbearer and do what's right, or an entity that continues to cut funding from artists while transferring those funds to larger institutions, which seems to be the current model. This is your chance to do better, be better, and dissolve this us against them wall that blocks us from growth. Thank you, and good luck. I'm just going to add one more thing. If you go to artsequitynashville.org or Arts Equity Nashville on YouTube, we have a video statement from Erica Nash of Mercademy. Thank you.